And we are rolling on June 6th, where we are summing up our thoughts on climate change. And this is part 2, where we're hearing from Sabera.
Yep. Alright, so starting over. In recent years, global warming has been a controversial topic, specifically for its threat to the existence of mankind. Personally, I always felt that it was kind of abstract, impersonal, and far off into the future. Yet, from taking this class, I have learned that if we don't act now, the future repercussions are just going to get more severe. We all deserve to live in a world that really supports us through our environment instead of threatening our existence. Now, we've all heard countless topics or arguments about global warming, but the one that I had the pleasure to learn more about was whether the U.S. should unilaterally reduce carbon emissions. So regardless of my debate, my stance has always been that I believe that the U.S. should have a multilateral approach. Yet, it wasn't until this debate that I figured out that there was something already in play, which was the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement has a lot of great aspects to it. Like, one of them would be that it wants to lower global temperatures to at least 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, which is great because anything above that is just going to be more detrimental to our environment. Also, it shows that there is no sole contributor to global emissions. The U.S. only produces 16%. That means there's 84% out in the world that isn't being produced by them. So them by themselves cannot be the only solution. And lastly, that there is the focus on developing countries.
Stand in the power stance, please. Feet wider than your shoulders. Thank you.
Lombard stated that the developing countries are predicted to not only overtake, but to heavily increase their own CO2 emissions as part of their economic development. What the Paris Agreement focuses on is donating $100 billion a year to those developing countries in order for them to make technological advancements to become more eco-friendly. Now, some of these may sound great, but from taking this class, I've also learned to question our policies, like how the Paris Agreement doesn't focus on how they're going to reach these 2 degrees of the temperature, and how we're really going to keep nations accountable, and is the economic input really proven feasible to our goals? I believe that without these questions, society can really be blindsided about the environment policies that we have today, and it's without these questions that we really know how to improve our policies.
Thank you. What? Okay, Jason. Who's Jason? Okay, you speak next. Have a seat. Executive decision. Go.
Alright, hello everyone, I'm Jason.
Hi, Jason.
So I came into the class with a very strong belief that global warming is real and it's catastrophic. And I left the class with the same exact views. However, I realized that there are a lot more complexities to the issue than I initially thought. I initially thought that it was clear that global warming was caused by humans, that the policy we needed to stop global warming was to reduce CO2 emissions, and that all of these effects needed to be mitigated. However, I realized that the complexities led to policy not being able to get complete. So one thing I noticed from all the policy debates was that if you really looked at it, every single government and opposition group thought that global warming was a real thing. So it started with the first debate, which was, is reducing CO2 a good policy? And the opposition were, as I first thought, that they were going to say it's not a good policy because global warming isn't real or caused by humans. What they really said was that reducing methane was a better system to reduce global warming. So if you look at it, if you look at the issue, both sides think that global warming is real. The same thing happened in the next policy debate on whether it should be a unilateral approach. And then in my debate on fracking, the opposition thought that global warming was real, but they thought that natural gas extracted from the fracking process would actually help to reduce CO2 emissions and help global warming. So what I really realized from this debate process was that because there are so many complexities in policy, it's hard to get anything accomplished, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if we reduce CO2 or methane if we don't do either. If we don't do either, then nothing's going to happen and we're never going to reduce global warming. But if we can at least go towards some policy where we can try to reduce emissions, then this will not only allow us to have a more sustainable future, but we'll finally make progress as opposed to just debating it. So I think that what I really learned from this class is that we can have a sustainable energy future, and we really need to get going with not just debating the policy, but actually putting it into action. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we need to just talk about the remaining people. How many? Raise your hand if you still haven't gone. Yeah, that's kind of bad. Who can continue on after 4 o'clock? Raise your hand. A few of you. Okay, good. So if you follow me, we'll go over to the Comm Studies conference room and continue on. And the rest of you, we will begin during the final and finish up, okay? So, or you can make arrangements with me. We still have 5 minutes. Have a seat. Yeah, I'll share one more.
I'm so sorry.
Still have 5 minutes. You can get 2 more in, yeah.
It's been a while since
So who's next?
that's why I said it.
Louis is next? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, man near and dear my heart. Okay, that's kind of number one. Why are we on this sheet? Okay, begin please.
Right, so I came into this class with very strong feelings about climate change, having taken a geography class about that last quarter. However, my views on it have now changed. I still believe in climate change, although I think it's been exaggerated by politicians to fulfill their ends. However, my debate wasn't actually about whether climate change is real or not. It was about whether we should have a multilateral or unilateral approach to climate change. And so right before my debate, I was pretty convinced that we were right, because I thought that the way in which China is still building a coal plant every week, even though it's in the power agreement,
Thank you.
the Paris Agreement is kind of ridiculous. I also think that the fact that America pays way more than any other country to be in the International Climate Fund, even though it pollutes less than other countries, is also ridiculous. But after and during my debate, my points changed, my views on this changed. Although I still think that there are some disadvantages to being in the Paris Agreement, or any multilateral agreement for that matter, I think that America should have stayed in the Paris Agreement. It's not just because we're trying to reduce our carbon emissions. It's because it shows the world that we're all responsible for it, and that since it's a global problem, it should be a global solution. And by pulling out of that, Trump has shown that he's not willing to work with the rest of the world to solve a world problem. It's also extremely short-sighted in my mind, because the global economy is moving towards renewable energy, and this is something we can all agree on at this point. I think Lomborg said that in less than 20 years, it's going to overtake coal in terms of efficiency and will be less expensive. So, to be honest, it only makes sense to push in that direction, especially from a financial point of view. So, after the debate, and now I realize that, yeah, we should have stayed in the Paris Agreement, and that a multilateral agreement of any sort to combat an issue that's global is actually necessary. Not just for the sake of the future of our money, but also for the future of our children and generations.
Thank you.